Hey, welcome back. In this video, we will learn about pivot tables. It's very simple. It's just an entire table that works as a data filter. So a pivot table, when applied to a data set, will help you filter out insignificant data, and it will present the most significant data in the form of a table. And yeah, that table is called the pivot table. Now there are different types of pivot tables. We will look into all that after a while, but for now, let's just look at the set of data that we have over here. We have different columns here that show us a list of fruits and vegetables that are being exported to different countries. We have 6 different columns: order ID, product, category, amount of export, date, and the country that the product is being exported to. We will now create pivot tables from this data set. But before that, I have to mention some important requirements that the data set has to fulfill for the pivot table to work. First of all, the first row of the data set must contain the field names, which is actually true in this case. We have the field names over here in the first row. Second rule, the records or individual transactions must be in rows for us to create the pivot table, which is also true if you look over here. Third, there must be no blank rows or columns or field names within the data set that we have selected. So just scroll down and verify that that's true for our data set. And fourth, the data must be surrounded by blank columns and rows. So you cannot create a pivot table out of a subsection of data. So right here it is true because we have this data surrounded by blank columns and rows, so we're good to go. Now there must be nothing immediate outside of the data set that we have selected, and there is nothing here. So now that we have verified everything, let's just create a pivot table out of this data. For that, select any cell within the data set. Go to the Insert tab in the ribbon right over here, and you can choose Pivot Table or Recommended Pivot Tables. Let's just take a look at Recommended Pivot Tables just to see what Excel recommends that we do. So we will click Recommended Pivot Tables, and this window opens up. It shows us the following pivot table options: sum of amount by country and category. So that will give us the total amount of exports in each category for each country that the exports have gone to. Now then we have the sum of amount by country, count of order ID by country and category, and so on. So if we want to choose any of these options, we can do that right here, and it will instantly create a pivot table from the data that we chose. Notice that if you press OK, the pivot table will actually be created in a new worksheet, not the same one. So you can change that option later, but I prefer it to be on a new worksheet right now, so I'll just leave it just like that. Now we'll just delete that sheet by right-clicking and pressing delete. This is because I want to show you how to create your own pivot table from scratch. Okay, so now that we have deleted it, let's just do that. Let's go over here to the Insert tab again and click Pivot Table. A Create Pivot Table window will open up, and we have the option to select a table or a range of data. But Excel has already done that for us, so we don't have to do anything here. And then we can choose where the pivot table has to be placed. We will choose New Worksheet and press OK. So you'll be taken straight to the new worksheet where the pivot table has been created. And in the right side of this worksheet, you can see the different pivot table fields that we can drag and drop onto the areas down here. We have order ID, product, category, and so on, which we can drag and drop here to create columns, rows, filters, or values. Let's just drag the product by clicking and dragging it, and let's just drop it over here into the rows. you can see that the products appear as rows over here in the pivot table. Now let's just drag the country field by clicking and dragging it into columns. So now we have created a pivot table with the exported products filled up as rows and the different countries filled up as columns. Now we can populate the table by filling it up with the values, which in this case is actually the amount of product that was exported, or the money amount, the dollar amount. So let's drag the amount values into values over here. You can see that the table has been filled up with the different values. So we have the amount of product that is being exported to each country here. Now let's add some filters into this table to help us filter out the data even more. So we will drop the months field from here to filters by dragging and dropping, obviously. You can see that a months filter appear right over here. We can also add the date, order ID, or product category as filters. You can even add them to other groups too. For example, if I choose the date and add it to values here, it will give me the count of date. Now that's not something that I want right now, so I'll just click here and select delete field. So that's how you restructure the pivot table, either by deleting the fields or just by moving them around. Now let's look at this drop-down menu that we have over here. We have a bunch of drop-down menus here. Let's click this one here and it shows us checkboxes we can tick or untick to filter the data out. So if I just want to see the export data for beans to the different countries, I can just click beans and press OK. It will show us the export data of beans. If you want the export data to a particular country, you can go here, select the country, and press OK. Similarly, you can filter the data for a particular month or date. You get the idea. So this is how you can create a pivot table inside Microsoft Excel. Now it need not be this elaborate, table, two-dimensional table all the time. You can just create a one-dimensional table that shows you the data regarding just one category or one product. That would be a lot simpler. I just wanted to show you a complicated one so that it will be easier for you to create a simpler one later. So try this out and be back again. Thanks for watching.